Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Brian Baldinger. This is the best football show, and I'm here just about every single day. Right, my beautiful third floor office at NFL Films. I got Bill Belichick and Mike Lombardi downstairs, and Chris Long filming their show. It's good stuff. A lot of football being talked about here. This is the best football show. You can find it, download it, like it, subscribe to it, right on your free Odyssey app, wherever you get your apps at, Spotify, whatever it might be. You can find me at Baldy NFL on all the social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I'm out there. Baldy NFL. And we got news today. Look, we got breaking news. It's never fun breaking this kind of news, but we forgot a firing today in New York. The New York Jets fired Robert Saleh. They've seen enough. And quite frankly, it hasn't been a well-coached football team. And I'm not here to badmouth Robert Saleh, but these last 2 weeks have been dreadful offensively. Defensively, you can't play a whole lot better. Jeff Ulbrich, the defense coordinator, has been elevated to the interim head coach. And look, I played for a coach that got fired during the season. Ron Meyer got fired, I think, my last year in Indianapolis. And Rick Venturi took over. It's never easy. It's never good. It's always, we saw last year Antonio Pierce take over for Josh McDaniels with the Raiders. And that turned out to be a pretty good season for them. They played really good after they changed coaches. Here's what I see the Jets' issues to be. And just before they fired Robert Saleh this morning, I broke down Breece Hall. Breece Hall has 65 runs in 5 games so far. I think Breece Hall is an elite talent. I really do. I think he's a tremendous running back. But 31 of his 65 runs this year have gone for 2 yards or less. It's way too high of a percentage. And so they went back and I started watching all the 31 runs that have gone for 2 yards or less. And the offense line, they haven't protected Aaron Rodgers well, but they're dropping back 55 to 60 times the last 2 weeks. Your quarterback is going to get hit in this league, especially when you go up against Denver, who's playing great defense. In fact, Denver right now they are the 8th ranked defense in football. And the Minnesota Vikings, coached by Brian Flores, is the number 1 ranked defense in football. You go up against those two teams, your quarterback's going to get hit if you drop back 50 plus, almost 60 times. And so Aaron Rodgers is not going to make it through the season the way they're dropping back to throw it. It's a fundamental mistake. Go fix your offense line. Work on the run game. Start knocking somebody off the football. It does not look good. The way that they're blocking basic runs, outside zone, inside zone. They're not getting movement. Their double teams aren't sound. They're not foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder. I'm watching the Washington Commanders run for 13 touchdowns in 5 weeks. 13 rushing touchdowns. Jeremy McNichols last week ran for another touchdown. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns in 2 weeks for Washington. He ran for 1 his first 8 years in the league. But you watch Washington, they're fundamentally sound. The Jets aren't. And they don't protect well. And so they fired Robert Saleh. And Jeff Ulbrich, the strength has been the defense. Defense has played really well. The Minnesota offense struggled like hell last week against, if it wasn't for a couple defensive pass interference penalties, I don't know how many points they would have scored. Denver the week before got 1 touchdown. So look, the owner, I'm not putting this on Woody Johnson. I'm not putting it on Joe Douglas. They made a change. But the fact is this is an organization that has been all in for 2 years in a row. Whatever Aaron Rodgers wanted, Alan Lazard, Michael Williams, Tyler Conklin, they got guys to come in and help. They went out and got 3 new offensive linemen: John Simpson, Morgan Moses, Tyron Smith. They drafted Olu Fashanu. It's not working out. And so you make this change. And we'll see. I think Jeff Ulbrich, though, I think he'll get the players' attention. I don't know if he's going to be Antonio Pierce good, but their defense, minus C.J. Mosley and Sauce Gardner getting banged up last week, and Hassan Reddick, never showed up, and Jermaine Johnson out for the year, they're still playing good football on that side of the ball. In my mind, DJ Reed is, outside of Patrick Surtain, DJ Reed is as good a corner as there is in football. I feel like Surtain is in another level right now, but I feel like DJ Reed's playing as good as any corner in football. What he's done the last 2 weeks is amazing. So they've got some good performances. I talked to Jeff Albert a couple weeks ago, and there was a young player. I'm not going to mention his name. He showed up on tape to me. Showed up, and I'm not even going to. I won't mention his name, but I saw Jeff on the sidelines before the Jets Denver game, and I said, "Hey, what about so and so? Is he going to get more playing time?" He's like, "I don't think you're going to see too much of him today." So I kind of like, "Oh, really?" Yeah, there's certain things, certain requirements that need to be met before you get a chance to play. He was inactive. Jeff Alpert sat down, a talented young player, and he told me, I don't think you're going to see too much of him today. That's what you got to do. Players aren't performing. Players aren't getting the job done. You got to sit them down. You got to make changes. And I think you'll see that in this Jets team. I think you'll see a much better commitment to the run starting this week. I believe that. We'll see. And I think you'll see Breece Hall. Like if I was Jeff Ulbrich, I'd spend my time over there with Keith Carter and the offensive line getting things right because they have the talent to do it and they're just not getting it done. Okay, here we go. Last night you saw Kansas City whip the New Orleans Saints. And it's just kind of amazing to me. Kareem Hunt was drafted in 2017 out of Toledo. And he was the offensive rookie of the year and led the league in rushing. Next year, got himself into whatever, situation, whatever, he gets released. Okay. All right. Bounced around the league, a little bit, spent time in Cleveland. Comes back to Kansas City 2 weeks ago. Gets himself over 100. What he did in 2017 for a running back, that's dog years. Let's face it. Whatever happened 7 years ago, that's an eternity for a running back. He came back and got himself 100 yards last night. Unbelievable. Juju Smith-Schuster leaves Kansas City in 2022. Did nothing really before in Pittsburgh. Leaves the nest, comes back, has over 100 yards receiving last night. Mecole Hardman, drafted by the Chiefs, right? Speedster. Planning if they lost Tyreek Hill during an all-season incident. Drafted his replacement. Had some decent days there. Bounced around the league. Comes back to Kansas City and has some success last night. You just go what is it about Kansas City? The guys can leave the nest, come back, and then quickly pick up where they never left off. Well, the constant is Andy Reid drawing up these plays and Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes just, buying time, making these throws, down there on the 5-yard line, coming up with the formation where, Travis Kelce is the quarterback and they run a read option and they score to Xavier Worthy. I mean, they just take whatever they have and they just make everybody say, they got to go out and get a receiver. Go out and get a receiver. Well, Mecole Hardman is back and Juju Smith-Schuster is back and Travis Kelce's picking it up the last 2 weeks. And you go, do they need to go out and make a trade for a receiver? I don't know. Because defensively, they just shut teams down. Nobody can block Chris Jones in this league. Nobody can figure out Steve Spagnuolo's blitz schemes and pressure schemes and how he gets pressure to the quarterback. I mean, they're just an amazing, amazing organization. And here they are, undefeated. One of two undefeated teams, Minnesota and Kansas City. Wasn't that Super Bowl IV? Wasn't Super Bowl IV Minnesota and Kansas City? Lenny Dawson wins the Chiefs' first Super Bowl. I mean, they're on a collision course right now. And they're both fueled by tremendous defenses. In fact, Kansas City's defense right now is ranked 5th. Minnesota is ranked 1st. Defense wins championships. I'm not getting off it. Let's go to Washington. Well, I mentioned Washington's run for 13 rushing touchdowns. You realize that there will be teams this year through 17 games that won't run for 13 touchdowns. Washington has 13 the first 5 weeks. And then you look at Jayden Daniels right now, completing 77% of his passes. He's easily the offensive rookie of the year. Okay. All right, that's not a surprise. But is he a player of the year candidate right now with what he's doing and the turnaround that Washington is now doing? Because for a while you said, okay, well, the offense can carry you. And by the way, the offense is the number 1 ranked offense in football, meaning they've scored more points than anybody. But the last 2 weeks, the defense, you look at Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, inside linebackers, ripping it apart, splash plays, blitzes, sacks, taking the ball away. Looks like a pretty good tandem. A secondary that was giving up, 9 touchdown passes in the first 2 weeks, all of a sudden has clamped things down pretty good. Jayden Daniels is just an amazing talent. His ability, just like Myles Garrett, is like a freight train coming right at him the other day. Like literally just collapsing. And look, it's no knock on Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, trying to block him. Nobody. He's trying to get his arm, which is basically a steel beam, off him, and he can't get it off him as Myles Garrett's crushing the pocket. And Jayden Daniels literally jumps through whoever the other defender is coming and Myles Garrett and jumps. He's in the air. And but while he's jumping, his eyes are down the field. And from the backside, Terry McLaurin is just streaking across. He's not even a primary. He's just trying to keep the play alive 40 yards down the field. And Jayden Daniels just launches one 66 yards off his back, like just in the air. 66 yards. Terry McLaurin can't throw it any better. The guy is an unbelievable talent. And I feel like the whole team is improving around him right now. And who knows? Maybe Washington is now the team to beat in the NFC East. Maybe. They look pretty good. In fact, they look very good. Let's get to Denver, because Denver's won 3 in a row. And defensively, like I said, right now, Denver is ranked 8th. But when you watch them, DJ Jones, John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen, just look at these defensive linemen. And I'm not taking anything away from Benito or Cooper or anybody else that's in there on the front. Like, just Vance Joseph has this team playing so fundamental. It's incredible how they're playing. Front end, back end. Surtain, 2 interceptions, pick 6, changed the whole game last week. They're down 10-3, and the Raiders are going in to score to make it 17-3. And Patrick Surtain's just sitting there in zone coverage, eyes in the right place. All right, ball sails a little bit over Brock Bowers' heads, and he goes 102 yards the other way. In an instant, it's 10-10, and then they just ran they just did everything they wanted to do to the Raiders after that. Bo Nix, he's just getting better and better. It started really up front. The offensive line has played a lot better. They're running the ball. Javonte, Jaleel, they're running the ball much better. But now Bo Nix is getting the ball to his receivers. He's getting it, to Josh Reynolds. He's getting it to Marvin Mims. He's getting it to Cortland Sutton. He's getting the ball to his tight ends, Trotman. The ball is now being completed. There's real development to the offense. Denver right now is a dangerous team. The Broncos, let's see. The Broncos right now have won 3 in a row. And by the way, the Raiders had beaten them 8 straight times in a row. They just ended that. And now they play the Chargers at home, coming off a bye. Well, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, these guys were brought in to change their franchises around, turn their fortunes around, play a different brand of football. Sean Payton is now in the process of getting that done and getting the team to believe. It's a very confident football team. It's a very sound football team. Their run fits are beautiful to watch. Get yourself a cup of coffee, sit down and watch them stop the run. Amir Abdullah busted one for 40 yards last week. You could say that the middle linebacker, Sternad, was, just crushed by an illegal block right in the hole as he's ready to make the tackle. And Amir Abdullah got out, and he got loose for 40. Other than that, they shut him down. I like watching teams that grow, that are a product of good coaching, like Sean Payton is doing in Denver, like Dan Quinn is doing in Washington. And that is why the Jets made a change. They're all in, and that's what they're telling you. We're all in. This coaching isn't good enough. It's not good enough. The passing game isn't good enough. The offensive line isn't good enough. The run game isn't good enough. We have to be better. We're going to make a change at the top. We're going to fire our coach. That's why coaches get fired. The team isn't responding to whatever they're doing during the week. Meetings, practice, walkthroughs. It is not getting conveyed. The team is not improving 5 weeks into the season. The way I just described what Denver is doing, what Washington is doing, what Kansas City continues to do with new players in Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster and McCole Hardman. It's not good enough. So the Jets made a change. And that's been the best football show brought to you right here by I'm Baldy NFL right here. Just telling you what I see and what I watch. what I study day in, day out. I'll be back here tomorrow, back here on Thursday, leading into week 6 in that important game in Seattle between the 49ers and Seahawks. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow.